Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen, to Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. This week's episode, we're going to continue part two of our Studio Ghibli examination. We'll continue going through the chronology of the films, as well as end this one with our personal top fives. There are some genuinely surprising and emotional moments here at the end of this, we'll call it a countdown, I guess. And we're going to pick back up here with Justin, talking about The Cat Returns. I'm Cody, and we're here with Joe as well. Enjoy.
So in her head, as she's kind of like having this crisis, she hears a voice saying she needs to find the cat bureau, or I think in the original it's like the cat business office or something like that. And there was a flashback earlier on to where she's trying to tell her mother about this, and she says, "Well, you know, when you were young, you used to tell me you could talk to cats." And there's a flashback to her childhood where there's this like little mangy kitten that's following her home from school, and she ends up giving the kitten some food and kind of talking to it. And apparently as she was heading home, she told her mother, "You know what that cat said to me? Life is rough." So
surprised this isn't Cody's favorite movie.
I know, right?
Wasn't ranked as highly as I kind of had to make some calls here based on other lists, but I definitely want to watch this.
It's fun. So she ends up seeking, the voice in her head says, find a fat white cat at the crossroads and he'll guide you to the cat bureau. So not knowing what else to do, she goes to the crossroads and she finds this big, fat, white, grumpy cat that she actually sits on accidentally. And it doesn't really pay her much mind until she says, "Are you the one I'm looking for? I was told to ask you about the cat bureau." And he just kind of glares at her, and she's like, "Fine, I knew this was stupid." And as she's walking away, he says, "All right, follow me." So he leads her on this merry chase across like rooftops and things, and they end up finding their way to this little miniature village where the cat figurine that I guess is from Whisper of the Heart is there, and he apparently is a member of the cat bureau. And the place where she is, it's a place where I don't know, it gets kind of, I'll skip ahead because I'm going way too long on this. So anyway, he agrees to help her, but she gets kidnapped anyway, and so they go and try to rescue her. And in the cat kingdom, she starts slowly becoming a cat, and things happen. She eventually does manage to get out and get back to her real life, and it's just a very enjoyable, weird. It's not even really a weird film. It's like a fairy tale kind of life, kind of. Yeah,
it's pretty weird.
It's weird, but there's an internal consistency to it. It's an internal logic in a way.
This is what the musical Cats should have been.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it is a great cast list for the dubs, though. Wow.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's whimsical. It's just very enjoyable. It's just a very nice kind of lighthearted movie that has a lot of almost Looney Tunes humor at times, but yeah, it's a joy to watch, and it's become one of my favorites over recent years.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah,
can't wait to see it in your top five later.
I know. Number one, The Cat Returns.
Dun, dun, dun.
I say nothing.
Well, let's keep this castle moving along. Wink.
Wah, wah.
Speaking of ruining Batman.
Swear to me. 2004, the next masterpiece from Hayao Miyazaki, or so I'm sure the marketing would have said. Howl's Moving Castle. This movie's interesting because it is one of a few Studio Ghibli movies that is based on an existing work. Mm-hmm. It was based on a novel by Diana Wynne Jones. I'll kind of take lead on this one and give us a very short summary. I actually just rewatched this one yesterday. The main character's name is Sophie, and she's a young woman who works in a hat shop. And one day it's set in kind of like a vague European city, or at least like European inspired city. She's walking around town one day and like has a chance encounter with a wizard named Howl, except I don't think we know that yet. We actually, you hear rumblings at the beginning of the movie. I said that I was going to keep it short, and now I'm just like getting into it.
I know the feeling.
Now I know how Henry feels. You hear rumblings earlier on about the fact that there's this wizard named Howl out there, and they actually, towards the beginning, she's in the hat shop she works at, and her and some other women that work there, they like briefly see this moving castle out in the distance, and one of the women says that it's Howl's moving castle. And they talk about how Howl is like heartless and that he eats beautiful young women or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Sophie's all sad because she's never been beautiful because she's just like a spinster, or so she thinks. So she's out and about in town, and she starts, I think she's getting harassed by these soldiers.
Yep.
And this dude swoops in to kind of intervene and save her. And he's a wizard of some sort. We don't know yet, but it's Howl. Anyway, I think it's later that same night, she's in the hat shop, and this witch comes in, the Witch of the Wastes. And
Ooh.
Sophie doesn't know who it is at first. So she insults her, and the witch puts a curse on her that turns her into an old woman. And that's basically the setup for the movie. She gets this curse that turns her into an old woman. And part of the curse is that she can't talk to anyone about it.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of sets off on her own to try to find Howl, to hopefully find a way. And she finds her way to his moving castle and kind of encounters a cast of colorful characters there. I don't want to get too much into, the point-to-point plot after that, but this is another movie that is set against the backdrop of war. It's this kind of European-inspired world where there's this massive war going on between these different kingdoms, but it's also a world where wizards and witches exist. So the different kingdoms are employing, sorceresses and witches to kind of join the war effort and try to help solve things. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Howl himself is also under a curse of sort. Hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler. But he also kind of seems to be a pacifist, or he kind of gets involved. Like he doesn't want to get involved in the war. Like mm-hmm. It's not that he is like does not commit any kind of like violence himself, but he's kind of trying to stay out of it and like doesn't want to get caught up in this massive war effort. So you definitely kind of see the Miyazaki once again commenting on the futility of war. There's also a lot of kind of like giant hulking airships and machinery. So we kind of see those things again. Kind of revisiting a lot of the same themes there. I honestly, despite that sounding kind of dark, the movie is also a lot of fun. There are a lot of kind of fun characters in it. One of the main characters is this fire demon who in the dub is voiced by Billy Crystal. And it's basically just Billy Crystal being Billy Crystal, but it works.
It does.
It's fun, it's fun. He's just kind of sassy and he's pretty great. There's a young wizard who I forget his name, but
Markle.
He's also,
Markle.
Yeah, yes. He's also a lot of fun. He like disguises himself. He like creates a fake beard to try to disguise himself as like an older wizard, and they kind of create an unlikely family, which ends up being, kind of the point of the movie. But this is one that I saw it when it originally came out in theaters. I don't think I had watched it since then. And I remember liking it. Like I like all of Miyazaki's movies, but it didn't really strike me as, being particularly great at the time. But I have to say, rewatching it yesterday, I really like this movie, like more than I remembered and kind of more than I expected to on a rewatch. So I don't want to see too much more about that now, but what do you guys think?
I'll go on this one. It's another one we have a DVD from a long time ago when my daughter was young. And it's funny because she was in here. I watched half of this right up to the minute when we started recording today. I was watching this and trying to get through it because I knew I liked parts of this one, and then I knew there was something about the character of Howl I didn't like, and I was trying to go back.
Swear to me.
So I could watch it again. I think it's just how whiny he gets. I just can't. I don't know.
He is a drama queen.
I mean, he literally melts in the one part, right? Because
he's like super emo boy.
Yeah, he is.
He melts because his hair color gets changed, and
from blonde to red, and then it turns to black.
I think he literally says something like, "I'd rather die than not be beautiful."
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also, I keep joking about it because in the dub, he is voiced by Christian Bale, and he is like very close to just doing his full-on Batman voice for a lot of it, which it really threw me off. Like, because it had been a while since I had seen this movie, I like pictured the character having the darker hair, which he has later on.
Yep.
So it surprised me when he first shows up and he basically looks like David Bowie from Labyrinth. He's got like blonde hair and like wearing like the big necklace and stuff, but then he talks like this.
Yep. My daughter did not remember this very well from when she was little. And first, she actually said, "Can we not watch Howl's Moving Castle?" When I said we were going to rewatch a bunch of these this week. And as we were watching them, she said today she apparently thought Castle in the Sky was Howl's Moving Castle. And that's the one she didn't want to watch again. And when she saw Howl today, she was like, "Oh yeah, he's so dreamy." And I was like, "Oh yeah."
Oh no, she's gonna be one of those girls.
But it is a fantastic cast of characters. I'd step away for a moment. Did you guys mention the scarecrow on the stick also?
Oh, I forgot about Turnip Head.
The Hidden Prince.
Yeah.
That came out of left field.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep cut because there's like literally a half-second scene when she's like walking through the town. There's like two people in the distance that say, "Yeah, they say their prince is missing," and they're like, "That's the only hint until the end." And you're like,
yeah, I'll be honest. Like last night when I watched that, I totally had missed that. By the time at the end, they're like, "Oh, he's the missing prince." I was like, "There's a prince missing?" What?
Yeah.
Anyway, Justin, what do you think about it?
I first saw this in theaters with my dad when it first came out. So obviously nostalgia classes, I have a lot of fond memories of this film. But upon rewatching it, it does hold up, and there are there are some deeper themes in it than I probably appreciate or took notice of the first time I watched it. Finding a way to believe in yourself, to be true to who you really are, and things like that I didn't really necessarily pick up on the first time. We can talk a bit more about it later if you want, but seeing it again after some years had gone by, I think was a good thing because similarly to Kiki's earlier, there's more depth here than there seems on the surface.
Agreed.
All right.
Up next, 2006, the debut feature film from Goro Miyazaki, who is Hayao Miyazaki's son.
Not anymore.
I mean, that's fair. Has anyone seen Tales from Earthsea?
I saw it.
Did you?
On the rack at the library, and I left it there.
Oh my God.
Based on the ratings.
Yeah, this is another one that I knew was based off of another work. I think Ursula K. Le Guin is the author of Earthsea, a series I never read. So I felt it would probably be better to read the books before I watched this, and I have not, as of yet, read the books. So
I have also not seen this movie. I've heard that the books are great. I've heard that Ursula K. Le Guin's writing in general is great. I keep meaning to check that out myself. I've heard this movie is not so great. Miyazaki, we could talk about this now. Apparently Hayao Miyazaki is not the best dad. And it's weird because apparently I think Goro was his firstborn son, who's born in like 1967 or something like that.
Okay.
And Hayao Miyazaki has said that having children kind of changed the direction of his work. And made him want to start making things that he thought his children would appreciate. But somewhat ironically, it also kept him away from his children.
Yeah, that was good to say.
He's kind of a notorious workaholic, and it's pretty public that he just was never there for his kids. Like, I mean, Goro has come out and said that he has, like, I think he said at one point that his father gets like full marks as an animator and 0 points as a dad. So they have this very strained relationship. Like it sounds like they just like never really talk to each other for long stretches of time.
That was enough to make him want to get in the family profession.
Yeah, well, and it's weird. I mean, he started out not in the family profession, and I'm honestly not sure exactly how he came to direct this movie. I know that he did work for the Studio Ghibli Museum for a while, but I don't know how he made the leap to directing. But from what I've gathered, like Hayao Miyazaki was never really super thrilled with the idea, and I still don't think they have a great relationship. So it kind of sucks.
Well, when your dad names you after the 4 armed combatant from Mortal Kombat, that's already.
But so there's a lot of sadness there. But I've heard that this movie is not that great. So speaking of not great movies, Hayao Miyazaki comes at us in 2008 with Ponyo. Which I'm just gonna flat out say it, I think is his worst movie.
Yeah, this is the only Ghibli film that I actively dislike.
I wouldn't go that far. I think it's okay, but that's all I can say about it is I think it's like aggressively okay.
Yeah.
It's basic. I mean, story summary, it's The Little Mermaid.
Kind of.
Basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really feel like we need to get into it too much. Cody, do you have any like fondness for this movie?
This is probably the one I said I thought maybe we had seen first of the films. I'm not positive if it was this or Totoro, but one of the two. But I know as when my kids, especially my daughter again, were young, they used to watch this one quite often. So I have seen this one several times. Yeah, it's just kind of I don't know. It's not anything special. I put it on the bottom tier. I kind of have ranked in tiers here. It's in the bottom tier for me. Fantastic voice cast again, though.
Liam Neeson.
Wow. Yeah. Liam Neeson, Tina Fey, Kate Blanchett, Matt Damon, Lily Tomlin, Betty White, Cloris Leachman. That's some good stuff here. But yeah, not much to write home about.
The one thing I will say about it is that it'll make you want to eat some ham.
That's not wrong. I mean, the food is beautifully animated.
Yeah.
That's about the best thing I can say about it.
Well, that's good because we can just keep on trucking along here.
Okay.
Has anyone seen Arrietty?
Yes, once. Yeah, a few years back. It's kind of a Japanese take on the Borrowers or the Littles, if you remember those from like back in 1980 something. Small people who live in a house like between the walls, and they have their own little society, and it's all about how they get by and the trials and tribulations they go through. I enjoyed it. It's not one of my faves, but it's not a bad movie by any means.
Is it just little people that are supposed to live between the walls, or
no?
Harry Potter's all grown up.
I'm not steeped in like the Japanese mythology and stories, tales and fairy tales and things of that nature. So this was the first one that I watched from this series that I was like, wait, I already know this story. Like this was,
you did see Arrietty, Cody?
Yeah, I saw it when we got into these a long time ago. But yeah, it's the Borrowers is all it is. It's just same thing.
Well, I mean, it is actually an adaptation of the Borrowers, so it's not. Yeah.
So watching this, I was like, okay, I know what this is.
Okay. Interestingly, both Arrietty and the next movie were written by Hayao Miyazaki and Kiko Niwa, so co-written. But again, it's one that Miyazaki had a hand in writing but didn't direct. So you guys, sounds like you guys are both kind of like lukewarm on Arrietty. Like it was good, enjoyable, but not
like great. You said, it's a fine film. It's just
cool.
Bottom tier for them.
Yeah.
Has either of you watched From Up on Poppy Hill?
I have not actually.
Got it from the library, didn't get to it.
I actually wanted. So this is Goro Miyazaki's next movie. After Tales from Ritzy, and it's actually pretty well reviewed. Like I actually want to watch this one. From what I've gathered, it's kind of just like a gentle, sentimental, like coming of age type movie. I don't think there's really any fantastical elements, at least from my vague awareness of it. But it was pretty well reviewed. So I think it is maybe a step towards Goro establishing himself, as a director.
It sounds like it's about the thrills of rental properties and demolition of buildings.
So Rent.
I mean, that doesn't sound fun. We can skip over that one for now.
Okay.
Which brings us to one that might be slightly controversial.
Bum, bum, bum.
Which is, as of now,
maybe the next two. But go on.
As of now, the final motion picture from Hayao Miyazaki. He's working on a new one, but we'll see how that goes. The Wind Rises, 2013. This may be the only time in history that a movie trailer has made me cry.
Oh.
I am such a Miyazaki fan that watching the trailer, in the trailer it says the final masterpiece from Hayao Miyazaki. I was in a bar when this trailer was released. I watched it on my phone and it made me feel some goddamn feelings. It's fucking terrible.
I'm glad you added those on your phone because I was like, we go to vastly different bars.
Yeah.
I would go to that bar if that was playing in the background.
Probably would not be labeled a bar in the United States, but go on.
So 2013, The Wind Rises. At the time, it was going to be Miyazaki's swan song. Should be noted, he had announced his retirement a couple times before. I think he actually said he was going to retire after Princess Mononoke. But as I said, he is a workaholic. He's one of those people who just can't stop. This one really felt like it was going to be his last movie, to the extent that they put it right in the trailer and everything. It's, I would argue, probably his most personal movie, which is kind of funny because it's a biographic. Well, it's a fictionalized biopic based on Jiro Horikoshi, who was a Japanese aeronautic engineer, airplane designer, basically.
Okay.
Most famous for designing the Japanese Zero fighter plane, which was infamous during World War II. But it's ostensibly about Jiro Horikoshi's life, but thematically it's kind of about art and the corruption of art and kind of exploring a lot of themes related to that. I mean, just to kind of briefly go over the plot. I mean, not even going through the plot, but even just thematically, Jiro becomes fascinated with airplanes when he's a young kid, and he has poor eyesight, which he knows will preclude him from being able to become a pilot. So he realizes that a way to kind of be connected to aviation would be to become an engineer and be able to design airplanes.
Okay.
And so that just becomes his goal in life. And it's intercut with these dream sequences in which he's interacting with this famous Italian airplane designer engineer.
Caproni.
Yes, who is voiced, I mentioned this before we started recording, voiced by Stanley Tucci in the dub, doing a great stereotypical Italian accent. But he's reading this magazine when he's a kid who has this is it Marconi? Hold on, what's his name?
What are you asking? Caproni?
What's the character's name?
Caproni or Hirikoshi?
No. Anyway, the Italian guy. What's the Italian guy's name?
Caproni.
He's reading a magazine that has Caproni in it, so he starts having these dreams about him, and it kind of goes throughout his entire life. And basically, Caproni in the dream serves as this sort of inspirational character to keep him going and pursuing his dream. But it ends up being he has conflict because his dream is to design a beautiful airplane that he can kind of call his own. But it's set against the
We're going to make it the rib. It's flat on the top to decrease the air drag.
But it's set against the backdrop of this war. So he kind of has to accept the fact that the only way he's going to be able to design an airplane is for the military. And even though he's opposed to the war himself, much like Miyazaki, he kind of, in order to pursue his dream, he has to accept the fact that his dream is going to be responsible for destruction and kind of evil. So that's really thematically what the movie's about. And yeah, I mean, that's about it as far as like plot stuff, I think.
Okay.
I think it's a beautiful movie. I think that I'm honestly kind of nervous about the fact that Miyazaki is deep into making another movie, because I do feel like this would have been, and was at the time, kind of the perfect farewell from him. Like I said, it does feel like his most personal movie, also his most kind of mature movie. It's really not for children to any large extent. I mean, he's definitely kind of flirted with more mature things in the past. Princess Mononoke is fairly mature. There's like some violence and things like that.
Yeah.
But this is just a very, I mean, aside from the dream sequences, it's a very kind of adult, grounded movie. And it's, you know, obviously ties very deeply into his lifelong dream, like lifelong love of aviation, but it also seems to be kind of exploring like what are the effects of a man's work, like reflecting on like a life's work, and you know, an artist's impact and things like that. Like it feels meta on a number of levels as well. Do you guys have any thoughts?
It sounds like something I'd enjoy.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
I have not, sadly.
Oh, I thought this was going to be one that was controversial.
No. I mean, just from your description of the themes and you know, everything beneath the surface, it does sound like something I would really like. So it's one I'll have to track down at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's. I struggled with whether or not I was going to include it in my top 5. I'm not going to say how that went, but if you're any sort of Miyazaki fan, I think you definitely need to see it. And I do think that at worst, it's like, for me at least, on the border of like lower upper and upper middle tier.
Okay.
But just given what it represents and the themes that it explores kind of in light of his career, I think it's just really just very important.
Gotcha.
I think the theme of someone's creation going on to outlive them in many ways is kind of central to what you're talking about here, right? Like people that worked on the atomic bomb were sad their technology had been used towards an atomic bomb, or the people that worked on rocketry for space were sad that it became a weapon in the war. And like there's definitely that aspect to this film. That being said, this is a bottom tier film for me in the series. I think it's a jumbled mess. I don't particularly enjoy the dream sequences or the actual story that's going on. I don't really enjoy how his
because
depiction.
You don't have a heart.
No, I don't think
like,
that's it. The depiction of his marriage with his wife, I did not particularly enjoy that either. So that this, for me, this had a lot I did not really like.
As far as the relationship, I agree that that's not really well developed, but to me, that kind of feels like it is maybe mirroring Miyazaki's own life. I might be reading too much into it, but just
that could be. And
I mean, given like what I know of his home life, I feel like you see the struggle that Jiro has in this movie between, you know, trying to have a personal life in that relationship, but like being really driven by his work.
Yeah, I guess it's that, but it just goes through several steps of like, how can I make this relationship work, and then this marriage work, and then like, he knows she's, spoiler, Justin, gonna die, and
she's got the consumption.
He like, but then he makes the choice to like not be with her, and then like she dies when he's not there, and I'm like, well, that was against your character from the last hour of the movie. So okay,
that's okay. That's not fair. That's not really how that plays out.
Okay, tell me how it plays out then, minute by minute in the movie.
Okay, I will. All right, spoiler alert for
Justin.
I can take my headset off.
Take your headset off if you want. It's up
Werner
to you.
Herzog's in this movie. Go on.
It's true. Werner Herzog sings in this movie. If that doesn't sell you out, I don't know what will.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Spoiler alert. I mean, if you want to take your headset off for a minute, it's up to you.
I have to use the bathroom anyway. So
okay. All right. So here's what happens, Cody. So they're getting ready to test his ultimate creation, the Zero. So he has to go do that. And his wife,
when he went from Jiro to Hero?
from zero to zero.
Oh, so you're on my side then.
No. No, so he's going to do that, and his wife is at home, and she lies and tells everyone she's going for a walk, and she makes the decision to go back to the sanatorium to die.
That's true.
So he doesn't like abandon her. For all he knows, she's gonna be home when he gets home. Like she makes the choice to go off and do that because his boss's wife, who they're living with, at least speculates it's that she wants him to remember her how she was, before she gets like super super sick or dies or whatever.
I mean, I guess, but like he takes the time to say, like, even though she's gonna die from this is still a relationship I want to pursue, and I'm in it to win it with her. And
yeah, he loves her,
but then he's not with her, does
because
he?
he's doing this work thing, but he's got to come back. But then she's gone. It's not his fault.
This to me is a movie that tried to be beautiful and only succeeded partially.
And succeeded
partially.
No, I mean, like I said, I do kind of agree with you in general about the relationship, but I do think that we can kind of read between the lines on a metatextual level and speculate that maybe that's a reflection of Miyazaki's own failings with familial relationships.
I mean, that's a possibility, I guess, because I don't know his personal life as well. So,
but anyway, I mean, I enjoy it. I think it's a great movie. Film critic David Ehrlich, who is someone whose work I generally respect, said that it might be the greatest animated film of all time.
Really? So we'll know not to trust that guy's opinion anymore.
I don't know if I would go that far, but I think it is great. Justin, you should watch it and let us know what you think.
Sure. Yeah, I will definitely track it down.
Or just find some bamboo shoots.
Oh, funny you should mention that, Cody, because
stick them under your fingernail.
Actually, so interesting kind of side note before we get to that. 2013. So The Wind Rises comes out in 2013. It's supposed to be Miyazaki's last movie. The same year, we get what is Isao Takahata's last movie, because sadly he has died since then.
Spoiler.
Which is The Tale of Princess Kaguya. I will let one of you gents take point on this one. I will be completely honest with you. I started watching this movie earlier. After about 45 minutes, I went and took a nap.
It is very slow.
It was a little too slow for me. I kind of want to go back and try it again sometime, but
it is. Oh, did you want to, or should I?
I can do this one quick. This is, okay. So this plot summary on this one's very simple. It's bamboo cutter out in the woods, sees this kind of glowing area by a tree, goes over and discovers essentially a child, a very, very, very small child that fits in his palm of his hand. And this child has the ability to every so often grow considerably and age quite a bit in a very short span of time.
Well, I mean, I don't know how important this is.
I like how you're letting us take this. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, no, because at first it kind of looks like it's like a small person. Like it looks like a full-grown small person. And then he takes her home to his wife, and then the wife grabs her. And
that's true.
He's in the wife's hand, and then turns into like what looks like a human.
That's a good point. She's even clothed at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the clothes fly off as she expands, I guess, Hulk Hogan style. But yeah, essentially continues to grow and makes friends with all of the like country kids in the area, and has a pretty simple life with her, I guess we'll call them adoptive mom and dad. And eventually the woodcutter is back out in the forest and sees another glowing area. This time it's a bamboo tree that he chops apart, and I assume it's gold, some kind of shiny currency at least falls out of it that he then uses to improve the family's lives, because he wants to make the daughter, the princess, a real princess in the city. And so that is where they go, and they they buy a big palace, or build, I don't know, but and begins to court the upper class, the aristocrats of town, and try to kind of wed his adoptive daughter off fairly quickly. And she presents her potential suitors with seemingly impossible tasks, which they come one by one to try to say that they have fulfilled after a pretty bizarrely long time in the story. They said several years had passed on these, so this is a long time. And eventually she gets none of them and goes back to the country to see her boyhood crush who is now married with a kid, I might add, which is also a little weird. But and then we find so Joe, have you seen this at all, Joe, before this?
No, I've not.
So I was watching this.
I did read a synopsis. Read a synopsis, and it kind of like blew my mind.
Yeah, I got to like that point, and I was like, "This is a real slow movie." And then suddenly, like the prince of the town, the king of the town, had gone to hug her, unwantingly.
Hug her.
Yeah, unwanting, and she kind of like phases, I guess, disappears, and he kind of like falls through her, and then she reappears. So we're like, "Wait, what? She can do this all of a sudden?"
She's a Moonanite.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And then you find out she has like this connection to the moon and the moon people and has other powers as well. And it's just kind of bizarro. Well, it gets really bizarre when you see the moon people actually come to Earth. That's where it gets really bizarro.
See, now I'm curious. Now I feel like I need to.
They come on a giant floating cloud. There's like 100 of them playing instruments, and they have like a little, not even a throne, like what you'd see the mayor and the alderman stand on at a parade in the olden days or something, like a raised platform. It's weird. And then she goes to the moon and decides that's, I don't know, she's kind of sad because she didn't want to go to the moon. She wanted to stay on Earth, essentially.
So, I mean, is she like a moon princess?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does she have any guardians? Would you say any sort of moon knights? Moon knights?
No. Sadly, they are just the guardians of the moon, not the guardians of the galaxy.
But yeah, this is actually an adaptation of a what I gather is a pretty old Japanese folktale, which I've never read in its original form. So the only real exposure I have to it is this, and I'm sure there's some sort of cultural significance to it, especially with the moon, but I am not comfortable, like say, taking a stab at exactly what that is.
I mean, like the premise of like a poor family finding like a child in the wilderness, I don't think that's necessarily strictly Japanese. That's like a pretty, widespread.
It's just the ending stuff.
Yeah, that's when it goes all cuckoo for crazy puffs. So I got picked at this one up at the library also because of its rating on several lists that I looked at, and was good. But we should point out, if you're someone who believes in this type of thing, this is one of only 3 films for Studio Ghibli that has a perfect Rotten Tomato of 100.
Yeah, whoa. This movie has been called by many people possibly the greatest animated movie of all time.
For our listeners, that is Grave of the Fireflies, Only Yesterday, and The Tale of Princess Kaguya are the only 3.
All 3 of which I believe were from Isao Takahata, interestingly enough.
Well, that other guy's Buckus. What do you want to say?
Yeah, what a joke that guy is.
Yeah, it's a very pretty film. It's done in a very different visual style. It's all watercolor.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, I will say, even though I thought, the plot was pretty slow, the visuals are stunning. Like, it's gorgeous.
But, does it drag? Like, they could have cut at least half an hour out of the runtime, and I think it wouldn't have really hurt the overall narrative or presentation at all.
Especially there's so many redundant parts to it is my problem, right? Like there was like the teacher trying to teach her how to become the royal princess, and it was like I didn't need 10 examples of how she didn't want to do that, and all 5 of the suitors, I didn't need all 5 of their follow-up stories to that. Yeah, you could have shaved a good half hour off this easy.
You would think, given how intensive the animation process is, that they would want to make these movies like as short and tight as possible.
Yeah, but again, it is an old folktale, so they probably wanted to be as exhaustive as they could to do it justice or whatever.
I mean, the visual I mentioned earlier, that Takahata himself is not an animator, and this is actually how I came upon that fact, is because I was watching this movie and I was like, this is such a distinct visual style. And, Miyazaki has his own visual style, which is it's basically become the Studio Ghibli house style. But then, like, I've also seen My Neighbors the Yamadas, which is another Takahata film, which is a completely different art style. And then Pom Poko actually looks more in line with the Studio Ghibli house style.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's weird that all of Takahata's movies looked so different. What is that about? And that's when I kind of did the research and learned that it's because he's not actually an animator himself. So he, found the animator supervisors to do whatever art style he wanted. So yeah.
Should also mention this is number 4 overall on the Metacritic list as well.
My God.
Behind those same 2 films and Spirited Away.
Wow.
That's so weird. It sounds like none of us were super crazy about it.
I thought the animation style was cool also, but I'll tell you, probably because of the rest of Miyazaki's work, like my kids walked in and they're like, nope, they walked out.
Well, I think we might be done. Let's find out. After that, we've got, have either of you seen When Marnie Was There?
Once, yes.
Really?
Yeah, it was streaming on Netflix for a while, I think, shortly after it came out. And yeah, I actually saw it once then, and I have not seen it since. So this was some years ago. I don't remember a whole lot about the plot. There's a bit of not quite time travel involved, but like ghosts in a way. It's yeah. It would probably be better to just like read a synopsis of it rather than try to do it from memory. I will say initially I thought there was like a lesbian romance thing going on because there's this a real very strong close relationship that starts to form between the two main girls, but it's weirder than that.
I mean, I don't think we really need to read the synopsis, but
yeah.
what were your like overall impressions of it?
It was certainly different than most other Ghibli films I had seen. In that, at first I wasn't really sure where it was going, and it didn't really seem like there were any supernatural elements to it at all. At first, it felt very much just like a kind of coming of age story, kind of love story, just sort of a slice of life sort of thing, until the other shoe drops and you realize, oh, okay, this other person isn't who we thought they were at all. They're actually a ghost, and I think, well, I don't want to say who they were the ghost of, but it doesn't quite come out of left field.
Was it Christmas Past?
Not quite, but yeah, it felt very unexpected in that way. It didn't ruin the story by any means, but it gave it a different feel at the end. And I'd watch it again, but it didn't really leave as strong of an impression on me as a lot of other Ghibli films.
Yeah, from what I read of the like general reaction, it sounds like it's kind of what you said.
Yeah,
it seems like it was kind of warmly regarded, like it was like it's a nice gentle movie, but it didn't seem like it really made any kind of splash.
Right.
It's another one that is not directed by Miyazaki or Takahata. It looks like there are a few different people involved in that. So that's 2014. It's 6 years until we get a new Ghibli movie. I believe Studio Ghibli actually shut down for a while in between there, and there was some doubt as to whether they were going to actually continue or not.
I heard that too. Yeah.
And then we come back in 2020 with, I believe, Studio Ghibli's first fully CGI animated movie, Earwig and the Witch.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I have not seen it.
It is the third film from Goro Miyazaki. I have heard it's not great. I have not seen it either. Cody, have you seen that one?
Yeah. Do you want a quick summary?
Sure.
Sure.
So Earwig is bored one night and feels neglected by his parents, finds a hidden door with a bricked up passage. And during the night, he crosses the passage and finds a parallel world type thing where everybody has buttons. And no, this is the plot to Coraline. I'm kidding.
I was going to say, is it Earwig a girl?
I don't know. I don't even know. So there we go. Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like it is a girl. Show us how good I know that.
It is. It's interestingly, it is adapted from a novel by Diana Wynne Jones, who also did Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh.
But from what I understand, it's not very good. I don't think it was really well received at all.
This one has been skewered by the critics and the users.
Yes.
Huh.
I wonder how much of that is just because it was the jump to 3D period.
I'm sure that was part of it. It looks like they tried to kind of do the like Ghibli character design style, but in 3D, and it's just kind of weird.
Yeah. Also, apparently she joins a rock band at some point, judging by the cover art, or the poster art, rather.
No, that's Turning Red.
But anyway, that's it. Those are all the Ghibli movies. In 2023, possibly, I'd be surprised if it actually comes out next year. But Hayao Miyazaki is working on another movie. The last update I saw was, I think, last year. They said it was about 50% complete. I mean, I mentioned before, I kind of joked about the intensive process of the animation when they want to make it shorter. I mean, Hayao Miyazaki is 81, I think, now. And he still he personally draws like thousands of cells of animation for each movie.
Wow.
I mean, they have a team that does, but he does like all the kind of keyframes, and
Wow.
like he still is like just. I was thinking about this. I mean, kind of before we go into our rankings, like to me, I do love all of like Isao Takahata's movies I've seen, but like the Miyazaki movies, I just have a deeper connection with. To me, I feel like he needs to be in the discussion for like certainly greatest living filmmakers, up there with like your Spielbergs and Scorsese's. But I feel like he's even more impressive because, for one, I don't think Spielberg or Scorsese actually write like any or at least most of their movies. And Miyazaki like not only writes and directs, but also personally like draws a lot of the animation for his movies.
That is impressive.
And it's just, I mean, it's just insane that like, one person like contains so much creativity and like literally creates these worlds, himself essentially. I mean, not to discredit the rest of the team that works on them, but he's definitely like, very strongly guiding it.
Yeah.
Yep.
One other thing I just wanted to know quickly, we kind of mentioned this before we started recording, but I love the scores for pretty much all the Studio Ghibli movies. All of Miyazaki's movies, with the exception of Castle of Cagliostro, were scored by Joe Hisaishi. And he, I think, just does phenomenal work. I mean, there are at least, some passages from most of the movies that are like just etched into my memory of the scores. So I think pretty much every aspect of, most of these movies is just kind of beautiful and super well handled.
Yeah.
Do we want to get into the rankings?
Sure.
Does anyone have any other closing
I just say as a
thoughts
closing
before
thought, especially since I came into these so late, it was really refreshing just to see kind of what else was out there. Not that by the time I was into these, I was still like a Disney fan per se or anything like that at that age, but the idea that there has been this other world that was out there that I hadn't been exposed to before was just really comforting to see at a late age, because I don't feel like you necessarily always get the chance to experience something like that with the media, whatever it is. And so that being like a thing my family is really into now, even my wife and my kids as well, is it's kind of nice that it's out there. And like a lot of the themes we talked about in here with the environmentalism and make my Captain Planet reference again for this podcast, but a lot of these films focus on like the use of earth or wind or water or whatever element it may be. Somehow it's twisted and used in a different way in these plots and stories that feel very authentic and very different than what a story here in the United States would be about, right? Because it's always this blend of like tradition and culture with technology, in some cases magic or other things blended in here too. But it just comes out to this this beautiful canvas, I think, where that's all kind of put on the paintbrushes together. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yes.
I did just see the Totoro walk by though.
The Totoro.
Oh, no, maybe not the Totoro, but
Justin, any other thoughts before we get into our rankings?
Well, I do. I guess I can send this into those by saying I think it's a testament to just how skilled of a team they have at Studio Ghibli that that their films can bring so many types of people together. Like Cody mentioned, he hadn't really had a lot of exposure to any of this until, you know, somewhat recently. Versus me, who I've been into anime in general, you know, for probably going on 30 years now. So, and just across the board, seeing, you know, people with so many different takes on the medium, and yet having these films be able to appeal to damn near all of them, there's something magical in that. There's something just wonderful in what Studio Ghibli produces, and I think it's an admirable thing. So
that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, was it Howl's Moving Castle you said you saw with your father, or? Yeah, I mean, the last 3 movies that I said, you know, I had seen during their theatrical runs, I actually saw all 3 of them with both of my parents.
Oh.
And I mean, they love them. So I mean, that's to your point about, you know, the fact that they reach all these audiences. Like, my mom notoriously will fall asleep like anytime she's sitting down for more than a couple minutes. So it's like she cannot, especially like, you know, at home, she can't like stay awake through a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we watched My Neighbor Totoro one time, and she was just like captivated and like watched the entire thing. And then, you know, after that, I kind of lured them to see Howl's Moving Castle in the theater, because it was like, you know, the same people who made My Neighbor Totoro, and like, so it really does kind of like bring generations together. And I mean, it's also worth noting on a similar note that I think Ghibli has been responsible for introducing a lot of people to anime, like, you know, people who either just would not have experienced it, or maybe had certain preconceived notions about what anime was, and may not have given it a chance. So they really kind of have opened up, you know, opened up a whole new world for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
But let's get into it. We're going to do our rankings. We're doing top 5. I guess we're just going to each say our number 5 to start with, maybe brief reason why it's on the list, but
okay.
Who wants to start?
Doesn't matter.
Justin, do it.
Okay. So my number 5 is Howl's Moving Castle. It's, like I said, I have a lot of personal memories of when I first saw this, but at its core, I do think it's still a very solid film. There's a very intricate world at play here, you know, with the sort of pseudo Europe they've built up in the war that's going on, and how people who don't want to be a part of it get roped in anyway. But beneath that, there's a real story of even if you're caught up in the middle of all that, finding something to live for, finding what really matters to you. Sophie, is that the main character? I think.
Yep.
Yep.
She was, in a way, the curse did her a favor. She was trapped in a very mundane, humdrum sort of life until she got cursed and pretty much couldn't do her job anymore, and had to go out and try to find something else to do, find something a place where she fit. And the idea that even in the worst of situations, you can still find something worthwhile. That's, I think, the underlying message of Howl's Moving Castle, underneath all the pastiche of war and conflict and all that. And I think that's a really heartfelt message, and it speaks to me even more so after all these years. So beautiful film on a lot of levels.
Nice. I just to interject here, we had talked about doing honorable mentions. Do we want to do that after our number 1s, or should we throw those in here now real quick? I know you just did your number 5, but
okay. Honorable mentions: Princess Mononoke. Again, a great introduction to a great introduction to the studio, but I do feel that there are stronger and more meaningful films out there. Also, My Neighbor Totoro, please don't kill me. Beautiful film, wonderful. It's heartwarming, but not a lot of substance behind it. So those are my honorable mentions.
I'm so curious about your top 5, the rest of your top 5, I should
right?
Say. Cody, do you have honorable mentions?
I got a few in the middle tier, but I'm just going to give 2 an honorable mention tag here, and that's going to be Howl's Moving Castle, which just missed my top 5. probably solely hold back because Howl's such a whiny bitch, honestly. And my other honorable mention is Castle in the Sky, actually. I love me some good old air pirates.
All right, my honorable mentions. I really debated putting both of these in my top 5 at various points, but I've got The Wind Rises, which just barely missed my list. But I do think that is just a beautiful movie. I think everyone should see it, especially if you're a Miyazaki fan. And then I've got Castle of Cagliostro. That movie is just a ton of fun. It doesn't have the emotional depth for me that a lot of the other Ghibli movies have, which is why it didn't make my proper list. But I mean, if you like just, fun action movies, I think it's definitely worth checking out. Okay. All right, Justin's number 5 was Howl's Moving Castle. Cody, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Whisper of the Heart, that I watched today, actually. Really enjoyed this one, as mentioned. I just I've noticed with some of the Marvel movies and TV shows recently too, I've kind of started to gravitate towards the ones that just have that smaller plot where they handle, not a huge war in the movie or the TV show, but it's just kind of like this romance between the certain groups. And it's just a really refreshing one. It had enough mysterious elements, though, that it was something I enjoyed, like the cat that traveled around town who had multiple names based on where he was staying at, or the cat statue, or the antique guy, or the whatever it may be. So that's my number 5.
Awesome. My number 5 is one that kind of surprised me, and that is Pom Poko. Love those Tanuki balls. I mean, I mentioned that I had seen this movie years ago, and I remember liking it, but I didn't really have any, strong fondness for it. But rewatching it, it's a lot of fun, but it also does have the deeper, environmental message, and you do kind of get attached to some of the characters. And I just, like I said before, I think it might be the most kind of overtly funny of the Studio Ghibli movies. I just had a great time watching it, and I'm kind of surprised that it surpassed even some movies that I feel like I do have more nostalgia for. But I think that it's maybe just a better time at the movies. Do we want to switch it up or just go to Justin's number 4?
Your host, and you go.
Justin Henry, what is your number 4 Studio Ghibli film?
Okay, my number 4 is Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. Of the Valley of the Wind.
Disqualified. It's not a Studio Ghibli film. I'm sorry.
But I just love the world building in this. It feels like such a unique and just vibrant yet decrepit version of what a post-apocalyptic world could look like. There's just a lot going on there between the world trying to reassert itself with the Sea of Decay, the nations trying to claw to power and to survive, even if it means bringing back the horrors of the past, regular people just trying to survive in the middle of it all. There's so much going on here, and there's never a dull moment. And yet it never feels like it's just action for the sake of action, or spectacle for the sake of spectacle. Like each scene builds upon the ongoing plot, and it's a great synergy of action, world building, story, and deeper meaning with the whole environmental message that, maybe we should stop fighting against nature and try to figure out, a way to incorporate ourselves into it. So that's my number 4.
Nice. That is a good movie. I don't know if we mentioned this before, but for the fellow nerds out there, it does feature the voice talents of Sir Patrick Stewart on the dub version. So that's worth noting as well. Cody, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, because Justin told me to pick it. No, actually, that is my number 4, though, for real.
Wow.
Nice.
And I also hadn't seen that one until yesterday, I think. So also a lot of the exact reasons Justin just mentioned here, the environmentalism and the world rebuilding itself, and kind of this whole thing, despite the fact that I maintain my stance that if their city had been on the opposite side of the continent, the whole thing would be different. But that's besides the point. Patrick Stewart, I was just going to mention as well, very small speaking role there for him, Lord Yupa. And then can't forget Shia LaBeouf is in this as well, because everything is better with Shia LaBeouf.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
It's true. Does
So
the beef play the boy from the other village, or
yeah,
okay.
Hasbull. Yeah, no, I think Justin hit most of the points already there, but it's a wonderful world. And I liked, just the whole idea of the trees were petrifying and then crumbling, and then that was kind of replenishing the earth. And it was like the earth replenishing the earth, which we would hope would happen to our earth if humans would
One
ever
would hope.
stop killing it so fast.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Nausicaa of the Valley of. No, it's really not. My number 4 is another one that kind of surprised me, and it is Howl's Moving Castle. Prior to yesterday, in my mind, this was kind of like mid-tier Miyazaki. I remember enjoying it, but like, goddamn, I had a great time watching this movie. I mean, as Justin, kind of described, there are some deeper things going on, but I just think it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed my time spent with these characters. As I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed Billy Crystal being Billy Crystal. And yeah, I was kind of surprised at how much more I enjoyed it than I remembered when I saw it initially. So I felt like I had to throw it on the list.
Okay.
Number 3, Justin Henry.
Okay, my number 3 is The Cat Returns. It's, I feel, a very underappreciated film from the studio. It's not terribly deep, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. I mean...
What the heck is that?
Yeah, he bronzed his finger. But no, seriously, it feels like a modern day fairy tale in a way. Sometimes that's all you need. You just need a bit of escapism, a bit of a lighthearted story that does have some genuine humor. It does have some really nice set pieces. And like I said, there's nothing terribly deep or impactful about it, but not every story has to be. And this one just feels, I don't know, it's a comfort movie for me. If I'm ever just in the mood to forget the world for an hour and 15 minutes or whatever, then that's one I would turn to. It's nice. A feel-good film. Yeah.
It's awesome. Cody Fleming.
Speaking of feel-good films, my number 3 is great. No, it's Princess Mononoke at number 3. Again, a lot of mentions for this movie already here, with you guys having some personal stories and stuff, and just the overall message of like the ironworks versus the nature and this has kind of got everything going on. You got humans versus the environment. Are they destroying it? Are they trying to live with it? What's happening here? You got the people in the town, people in the fort, people in Irontown. You got the wolf clan. You got they like the ape clan.
Yeah.
Mentioned in there as well briefly. You got the pig clan, the warthogs, essentially. I mean, you got the forest god. I don't even know
boars, but that's
okay. The other boars, all right. You got the forest lord or the forest god. What is
forest spirit?
Forest spirit. That was a confusing thing. It was like a deer with its horns, but then it's suddenly like 10,000 feet tall and human face, and then it has its head, and then it turns into
because it's a god,
terrible thing. Well, then why appear as a small deer at all, Joe? Get on your godly self and just
it doesn't need to explain itself to you.
Why would a tanuki ever not stretch its balls out?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the same sort of thing.
Well, at least it didn't turn shimmering blue and appear across the lake. I guess it's got that going on. So anyway, Mononoke, I like this one a lot. And as mentioned again, Gillian Anderson. So there you go.
Nice.
What's your 3, Joe?
My number 3 is one that I have a feeling is probably going to appear higher on at least one of your lists, probably both. And it is Spirited Away.
Never heard of it.
I know, it's no one's ever seen it. It's just this silly little movie. I honestly, like, for a brief second, debated not even putting this in my top 5.
Whoa.
I feel like I have a weird relationship with this movie where I love it and it is iconic, but I don't feel like it's necessarily Miyazaki's best movie. But the more I thought about it, it is iconic and I do love it. So I had to put it on the list. I mean, it's you know, it's one that I have seen. It's probably actually, it's probably the one that I've seen the third most out of all the Ghibli movies. You know, I've revisited a number of times. I just love, you know, I love the depiction of all the different gods and spirits, and just the mythological themes that it explores. I mean, there's a reason it won an Oscar. There's a reason that it won so much acclaim. It's a great film, but there are a couple that are just a little closer to my heart. So yeah,
That's fair.
Justin, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is your number 3, Spirited Away. I just this again really appeals to my enjoyment of Japanese folklore. I mentioned the idea of over there earlier, but a lot of the spirits and demons and gods that you see are, you know, you can peg them as various types of, you know, traditional Japanese spirits. You can point to, like, just there's processions of them going by, and that's kind of a depiction of the what's called a Hyaki Yagyo, or night parade of 100 demons, which is kind of another element of traditional Japanese folklore. I mean, it's just so rich in world building and atmosphere and just visuals too, that sure, the story itself might not be the strongest, but it does also play into just a lot of steepings of Japanese mythology, Japanese folklore, and I just really enjoy the world they built there. You get a sense that there's politics going on between the various, you know, entities that in the world that Sen finds herself in. They don't necessarily make perfect sense, but you get the feel that they're internally consistent, like they make sense to the things that live there. There's rules they abide by, there's power struggles and things like that, and it feels just very well realized. It is like you're taking a step sideways into a different world, and I really, really like the film as a whole, as an experience. So
nice. I want to say, like, especially after what you just said there, I do really suggest that you go back and watch Pompoko again, because it is next to Spirited Away, it might be the Ghibli film that is most steeped in folklore. You know, the idea of the night parade of the 100 demons, like that is a thing in Pompoko, like absolutely. Okay. So I think given your interest in that, I think you might enjoy it on that level as well.
Okay.
Cody Fleming, number 2.
My number 2 is Justin's number 2 and your number 3, Spirited Away. So that's how that played out. But yeah, I just, again, kind of, you know, it's a bathhouse technically in the movie, but essentially it's just like, I just kind of envision it as this crazy hotel that they're at, and just have like this weird cavalcade of guests that keep coming in that are all sorts of different creatures. And, you know, again, you guys probably know mythology more than I for the culture, but just this wide range. I mean, it's kind of like the cantina scene in Star Wars, right? Like you look in every possible corner and there's just like a different type of thing that's there that you're like, oh, this is also inherent to this world. This is a thing that exists there. But the story's kind of, again, really small set though, right? Like it's the bathhouse is basically the setting of the movie, minus the very, very beginning, the very, very, very end, right? So small locale, but you kind of see the daily workings of everything with the creatures there. And do we mention Kamaji? Did we already mention Kamaji we talked about before?
I briefly did, just because I said that there's another character in I think Castle in the Sky that looks like him, but
like this the spider looking dude.
Spider Robotnik.
Was he run like the boiler?
It's Kamaji the Boiler Man.
Oh yeah, the Boiler Man, who also like commands the soot spirits, right? Basically. So just cool characters, little bit of a tiny mystery there with the like Haku and the Kahaku River and trying to set the water spirit back free.
Spoilers.
I didn't say if they did it or not.
I did say trying.
But since then he's gone on to do, I don't know. But anyway, moving on.
It's a good movie.
It is a good movie.
My number 2, shocking everybody, is Princess Mononoke.
Wow.
I love this
Mono
movie.
meant one.
Mononoke actually means like monster or ghost.
Why you Japanese
Shut
knowledgeable
up,
person?
nerd.
But
Anyway, I love this movie. I love the themes. I love the characters. I love the art. I love Lamp. I love the world. And I mean, I know, Justin, you said that you feel like the world building is better in Nausicaa.
Mhm.
For me, it just the portrayal of this forest kingdom, and like Cody was describing the various kind of animal gods and like different factions.
Mhm.
But for me personally, more than that, it's just something I talked about when we started talking about during Castle in the Sky, just like the lushness of the forests and this kind of idyllic, lost nature that it seems like Miyazaki is yearning for. I honestly think maybe on a subconscious level that this movie is responsible for me getting into hiking and like wanting to go out into nature and connect with that. Like, this is going to sound weird, but I feel like when I need to like close my eyes and like go to a peaceful, happy place, it's like this is what I picture, is like Miyazaki's super green, lush version of a forest. Like, this movie is just kind of ingrained into my psyche. So it's just, and I mean, maybe part of it is because it's the first one of his films I saw, but it's just like, it's just like part of me and has been for the past like 20 years. So I kind of can't get away from it.
That's fair.
Well, it brings us to our number ones. I'm very curious to see how this is going to go. Justin Henry, what do you got?
Okay. My number
The cat
one
returns again.
with a vengeance.
What?
My number one actually hadn't been my number one until I went back and rewatched it recently for this podcast and picked up on a lot that I didn't the first time. Kiki's Delivery Service. And it does, and on its surface, it is, it just seems like your standard coming of age story with magic and as a metaphor and all that. But it's a lot deeper than that. Kiki leaves home and she's really only good at one thing, and it's her passion. She loves flying. She enjoys doing it. She does it all the time when she can, and she ends up, when she finds a place to settle, she ends up turning that into a career, and that ruins it for her. And there's something, I think, very poignant in that, where if you try to take something that you love and monetize it, or turn it into something that you, instead of it's something you do for fun, it's something you instead need to rely on, it can kill it for you. And when Kiki starts losing her magic, it's when she starts to see that, the world it just wants her to do this without any sort of necessarily any sort of gratitude or appreciation. And it's just a way to make ends meet. It loses her. She literally loses her magic because the magic of what she had done for enjoyment has been taken from her. And that really is a strong, powerful message that when I first saw this years and years and years ago, I hadn't noticed. And even at the end, when she's regained some of it, she's able to fly again, she still can't talk to her cat. Something in her has changed. And even though she's regained some of what she used to love, she's never quite the same. So it's a story about ruining something that you had once been such a core part of you, trying to regain that. But beyond that, one step further, and I know this is a deep dive, it's a story about depression, because once she loses what she used to love, the joy of it, she's not the same person. And when you can manage that, you can try to regain some of that feeling that you lost, but it never really goes away. And that's kind of evidenced at the end when, okay, she's regained some of her powers, she can fly, she can go back to doing what she was doing, she's come to terms with that, but she can't talk to Gigi, her cat. She's never quite going to be the same again after she's had her run-in with that depression, that loss of innocence, etc. It's a very heavy movie under the surface, and I appreciate the hell out of that. So that right there is why it's my number one, because it's a lot more than it seems on the surface.
Wow.
Well, it's a wrap, everybody.
Yeah. Right. Kiki's Delivery Service, the darkest movie since Grave of the Fireflies.
Whoa. Okay.
No, I mean, seriously though, like
Good analysis.
Really, I really need to rewatch that movie now. Like
I just watched it and I feel bad now. I didn't catch the part at the end though. What are you saying? She can't, or she doesn't talk to her cat? Or what are you saying?
She can't. I mean, because throughout the movie, he's talking to her, and when she's unable to fly anymore, she's also unable to talk to Gigi anymore. And she regains part of what she lost by regaining the ability to fly on a broom, not her broom, because that broke.
Yeah, to save the people at the end. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, she at the end, after she saves all those people, she's holding Gigi again, and he just meows. It's not words anymore. And yeah, that's kind of indicative that this is something that it's the old "you can never go home again" kind of feel, or kind of message. And yeah, it's underneath a very cheerful veneer for most of the film, but it's there.
So could she understand him through the rest of the movie? Is that what you're implying, or just?
Well, yeah, they have conversations and stuff.
He's a talking ass cat, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that is true, but the more I thought about it now, like hearing you talk about it, I was wondering if maybe like the cat was making comments that we could hear, but she could not hear. But
I think she directly reacts to things.
Does she like answer his questions, or does he just make snide comments? That's all I picture him doing, but maybe I'd have to watch it again.
Yeah. I want to say she reacts, but I mean, either way, she doesn't even hear.
Yeah, either it changes, right?
Yeah.
We as the viewer at the minimum would have a different experience of the whole relationship. So
yeah.
Well, that's deep. All right. Well,
heavy. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Cody, what's your number one?
Well, it happened during World War II. Just kidding. No, my number one's what I assume is going to be your number one also. It's My Neighbor Totoro. I honestly, when I was making the list, my goal was to try to find anything other than this to be my number one. Not because I wanted something different, but just because I was like, I need to think outside of my own box and like try to see if there's anything else I could put at number one.
I'll think outside your box.
Oh, and Spirited Away and Mononoke were probably really close for 2, 3 for me. I could maybe flip those on a different day, but the other ones were below that, but really nothing I guess came close in the end of this one. It's the one of course the kids wanted to rewatch this one. We did rewatch the first hour of it, but I was like, I don't have time to watch that one because I got to get through these other ones. And I think there was only another half hour after that. I mean, let's see, I made it through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I made it through 9 full movies and an hour of 2 other ones this week. So I was joking before the podcast. I besides the movies we will watch as a family, like over meals spread out throughout the week, sometimes we'll split a movie apart. I generally watch like 6 movies a year, like legitimately. So this is more than I watch probably the whole rest of the year, but we'll see. Hopefully that's not the case. I know Joe's probably saddened by that, but no, Justin probably is too. But anyway, this is my number one. I just love the big fluffy dude. He's so cute. And the cute relationship between the family and my kids and I, after we watch this once, will inevitably for like a week after keep yelling out, "Hey, we're the Kusakabes!" like they do out their window of their cars driving past. And I bet you get a lot of really confused looks. I don't know that we do it to people per se as much as we do to ourselves, but now that you mention that, we're definitely going to do that in the next week. Hey, we're the gaijins. That. But no, it's just the mythology of the like creatures in the woods, and I mean it's really not different than kind of the Joe's got on the Bigfoot Totoro shirt today, but it's kind of that idea of like you don't know what could be out there with you, and maybe it's not like a cryptozoology thing, as we've looked at a couple times here on the podcast, but maybe it's just like this super adorable creature that's at one with nature. And it's a lot of parts in the movies that are like that too, where they find like the big tree that they give thanks to when they're there, and they find like the shrine in the woods. And it's a very, very calm movie. It doesn't have a lot of plot, as Justin said, but I think, as Joe kind of hinted at earlier, sometimes that's okay, because sometimes that's just what we need to reground ourselves and kind of have that relaxing moment. And it's not something you're going to overthink as you're watching the film, even if it's your 100th time and you're analyzing why the witch on the broom now suddenly is depressed, but whatever. Maybe. But no, I like it. I love it. You probably could guess maybe going into it. I don't know, since my cat's named that. That's what I chose. So Joe, what's your number one? Drum roll.
My number one is The Tale of Princess Kaguya. Good night, everybody. No, my number one is My Neighbor Totoro, which it didn't really strike me until I was watching it last night. It's kind of a metaphor for the Holocaust. That's not true. No. What did strike me when I was watching this last night, which is funny, Cody, that you said that you had just watched the first hour of it, is...
Did you watch the last half hour?
No, but like I was watching the movie and at one point I had to go to the bathroom or something. So I paused it. I literally felt like I had been watching the movie for 10 minutes and I was at the halfway point, 45 minutes in. Like, I mean, it's a short movie. It's only 90 minutes, but it just breezes by. Like, it's just that, like, even though there isn't, a lot of the conventional plot or whatever, like it's just so engrossing, like, at least for me. And I mean, I love most, if not all, of the Studio Ghibli movies, but not all of them do feel like they're paced, that well. Some of them do feel a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this one, it just kind of breezes right by. I don't even really know how to begin talking about this movie. I feel like I've already kind of said a lot about it, but I think maybe for me, the thing that appeals to me the most is that it really captures the sense of wonderment that a lot of us tend to lose as we get older. It's going along with what I forget that I apologize that I don't remember the terminology, Justin, but the idea of the kind of other realm being just outside.
I know you.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of captures the feeling of anything being possible. It captures the feeling of awe that I think we kind of forget how to feel as we get older. And every time I watch this movie, I get that feeling. I mean, I said earlier that when I was rewatching one of these movies, I found myself crying through the entire thing. This is that movie. And it's not because it's sad. It's mostly because of that feeling. It just kind of, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it.
He is, dear listener.
I am.
Yeah.
It just kind of like awakens like the inner child in me, I guess. It kind of brings me back to, a more innocent age, and for those 90 minutes makes me feel like anything's possible and there could be something kind of, lurking around the corner. And like I said before, I think it's just an exceedingly beautiful movie. I mean, the art style, the story, it's just very gentle. There's not a lot of drama, but it is kind of just, it's the kind of movie you just like it's about the experience and just kind of living in that world for 90 minutes. And for me, it's like, if I'm ever having a really, terrible week or something, like I can just put that movie on and be fucking happy. Like it's just like, it's 90 minutes of joy. And I mean, that's why when we were talking about the double feature of Totoro and Grave of the Fireflies, I said that they released them in the wrong order by putting Totoro first, because you get this 90 minutes of joy and then, another 90 minutes of the most depressing thing anyone's ever seen. But
That's crazy. I
just,
can't believe that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's cliche to say this, but like this movie kind of feels like home to me. It's like, it's just like a comforting. I mean, I know, Justin, you kind of said like it's maybe a comforting thing in a kind of a negative way, but I mean, not necessarily negative, but like that there's not much more to it, like for you. But like for me, that's all I need. Like there's not another movie I can think of that really gives me that same feeling. So I'm wearing, I mentioned before, I have at least 3 Totoro t-shirts. We got some Chinese takeout for dinner and I ate it with my Totoro chopsticks that Alexis got me. Yeah, it's the big guy is just kind of part of my life. And I don't think Hayao Miyazaki is me. Well, I shouldn't say that. He's probably made better movies, and like honestly, Grave of the Fireflies, if we were just talking about like the best movie, I was thinking about this. That might be like the best Studio Ghibli movie. But
but man, it's hard to sit through.
But it's hard to sit through, and it's not one that I like ever need to necessarily watch again. And I mean, since we're talking about favorite Studio Ghibli movies, like just nothing even comes close for me. So I guess that's that.
So did they not actually grow the giant tree? Is that just a dream, or?
Yes and no.
They grew it and then they put it back.
I think it is like kind of a dream, but I mean, at least I choose to read it as that like the spirits are helping kind of grow the trees that we see sprouting up. I mean, or maybe it's not exactly a dream, but it's like a shared hallucination or something. Well, no, I mean, it could be that like, the spirits are like giving them this experience, but then it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it would probably raise some questions if this giant tree did just sprout up overnight. Maybe they don't want that kind of attention. But I mean, I at least choose to read it as, they're having some influence over, because the acorns that they plant in the garden are ones that the spirits left for them.
That's true.
That's fair.
There's at least some tangible evidence there, unless somebody has like DID or something that we don't know about.
Yes. Not in this podcast.
Wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast.
Anyway, that's a whole lot of Studio Ghibli. I think this might be officially the longest episode ever.
Absolutely.
Feels like it.
So I think we should probably wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Are we still singing the theme song, or is that a thing of the past now?
I think it's tradition.
Oh, it's tradition. Host has to lead us.
Well, it's been fun. Hopefully at least 1 or 2 people actually made it through to this point.
Miyazaki himself and his son finding out why he doesn't love him.
We hope you'll join us next time, as we are friends occasionally not disagree.
Hey, we're the Kusakabes.
All right.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.